Chosen one, there's a reason your life hasn't felt normal. It's because it was never meant to be. From the moment you were marked for this path, the world started working against you. Not because it hates you, but because it fears what you carry. Your light threatens the systems built on sleep. Your presence agitates those addicted to comfort. This is not a mistake, it's a signal. The world doesn't celebrate the chosen, it tests them. You've been marked not for comfort, but for correction. And the moment you wake up, resistance begins. Everything asleep around you will try to pull you back down. In this video, I will show you the hidden forces that target the chosen, the subtle traps, the timing of attacks, and the reason August 7th is the most dangerous day of this month. Most won't notice it, but those who walk the path feel it in their bones. There is a divine plan designed to pull you through the fire, but it only activates when you stop stalling. This path requires more than belief. It demands awareness, discipline, sacred action. You'll learn how Shaolin wisdom can protect your energy, how stillness becomes a weapon, and why solitude is not a curse but a training ground. You will see why the battle intensifies right before the breakthrough, and how many chosen ones fall not from defeat but from delay. Watch until the end, because what's waiting for you is not just knowledge, it's instruction, a map, and maybe even a warning. Welcome to Shaolin Soulfire. If your spirit is still listening, subscribe, stay present, and prepare. They rarely fall in battle. No, most chosen ones fall while scrolling, numbing, overthinking, reaching for small pleasures in moments that were meant to be sacred. It doesn't happen in one day. That's the danger. It's a quiet unraveling, a slow leak in the soul. You begin with fire, with clarity. You know who you are. You walk with purpose. But then something small pulls your attention. A delay, a doubt, a comfort that whispers, just for now. The Shaolin path teaches that the greatest enemy is not pain, it's comfort without awareness. A soft pillow, a late wake-up, one missed morning ritual, one breath you forgot to take with presence. That's all it takes. The identity begins to slip, and the thing is, no one sees it. You're still wearing the same face, saying the same words, but the essence, the alignment, is missing. When no one's watching, the ego steps forward. It says, it's okay to rest more. You've done enough. But rest without purpose becomes rot. And the chosen one, when unconscious, begins to live like the ordinary. I've seen warriors trained for years forget themselves in a matter of weeks, not because they were weak, but because they thought danger would come with noise. It didn't. It came with silence, with comfort, with routine. This is why the monks train every day, even when they feel strong. Not to maintain the body, but to remember who they are. So when the world goes quiet, and the pressure fades, and the mission seems distant, the chosen one still remembers. Because forgetting doesn't always look like falling. Sometimes it looks like sitting still for too long. And by the time you notice, the fire is already low. Some days are just days, others are doorways. August 7th is not marked on calendars as sacred, but for those walking the higher path, it carries weight. It arrives quietly, but the energy shifts. Heaviness in the chest, restlessness in the mind. Old temptations surface, the body craves comfort, the spirit feels tired. Most won't notice. They'll brush it off as mood, weather, stress, but the sensitive, the chosen, they feel it in their bones. This is the test. Ancient traditions often pointed to seasonal thresholds, moments when the unseen presses closer. On days like these, your discipline is challenged, your clarity fogs, and you'll be offered easy ways out, subtle exits, harmless-looking detours. But they are not harmless, not now. The mistake is thinking that danger always looks like disaster. But for the chosen, it often looks like delay. Just skip your practice today. You've earned some rest. One day won't matter, but one day does matter, especially this one. Because this day holds momentum. What you choose now will echo through the rest of the season. It's not superstition, it's rhythm. Energy moves in cycles, and right now the cycle is sharpening. Those who stay aligned, who breathe, move, sit in stillness with awareness. They strengthen the signal. They pass through the doorway prepared. Those who cave to softness, who trade discipline for distraction, drift further from their path without even realizing it. You won't see the results today, but you will feel them later. So don't ask for signs. Become the sign. Anchor deeper. Move with intention. And remember, when the weight feels heavier than usual, it's not always meant to be avoided. Sometimes it's meant to be lifted. The mountains are quiet, but the real battle isn't out there, it's inside. This is what the Shaolin understand. You can conquer outer obstacles and still be ruled by what lives in your own mind. A monk doesn't train for applause. He trains because he knows the most dangerous opponent wears his own face. It's not the world that keeps pulling you off your path. It's the thoughts you don't question, the desires you don't discipline, the stories you tell yourself to avoid the work. Excuses are clever. They sound reasonable. They wear the voice of logic. It's not the right time. I'm too tired today. I'll be more focused tomorrow. But beneath the softness is fear, attachment, a quiet avoidance of pain. And each time you give in, something in you shrinks. Cravings are louder. They push and pull. They demand. They come dressed as rewards: sugar, lust, comfort, validation. And the mind, if untrained, obeys. It moves toward short pleasure and away from long growth. This is why the monks rise early, move in silence, train with full presence, not for show, but to sharpen awareness, to place the mind under guidance, to teach it to serve something higher than impulse. The untrained mind is a wild horse. It drags you toward chaos. It reacts to everything. But when mastered, it becomes a sword. Clear, still, precise. Inner mastery doesn't mean never feeling weak. It means seeing the weakness as it rises and choosing not to follow it. So the next time resistance shows up dressed as reason, or craving shows up disguised as reward, pause, breathe. Remember who you are training to become. You don't need to defeat the world. You only need to stop losing to yourself. The body always wants the easy part: warmth, food, rest, praise. It's natural, but the ego takes it further. It turns comfort into a craving, then into a habit, and eventually into a cage. And it does it so quietly, so politely, that you barely notice it happening. It starts with small, forgettable choices. Skip the cold water today. Sleep a little longer. Avoid the difficult conversation. Take the easier part. One by one, these decisions seem harmless. But for the chosen one, every time you trade friction for comfort, the fire that once guided you begins to fade. The ego feeds on that slow fade. It whispers that you deserve to take it easy, that peace means softness and growth shouldn't hurt. But that's not peace. Real peace comes from alignment, not escape. And alignment, especially for those called to a higher path, always involves fire, friction, heat. The monks understood this deeply. That's why they trained before the sun rose, why they ate simple food, why they repeated the same movements in silence, day after day. It wasn't for punishment, it was for remembering. They weren't trying to impress anyone. They were keeping the ego small and the spirit awake. Comfort, when it's not earned or aligned, becomes a spiritual sedative. It dulls your hunger, clouds your clarity, and makes you easier to control. Once you go numb, you stop asking questions. You stop challenging yourself. You stop noticing how far you've drifted. But fire wakes you up. That disciplined breath, that aching step, that moment you resist a craving, that's where the inner warrior is formed. So the next time comfort calls, pause, ask yourself honestly, is this true rest or quiet retreat? Peace isn't found in avoiding struggle. It's found in walking through it, awake, grounded, and unshaken. There comes a point on the path where effort becomes noise. You push, plan, chase, and nothing opens. Doors that once responded to your will begin to shut. And it's not because you failed, it's because you're trying to lead what you were meant to follow. The monks say the river never asks permission to flow. It follows its nature. The problem begins when you try to swim upstream, fueled by impatience, expectation, and fear disguised as ambition. You're not the architect of the plan. You're the instrument. You were never meant to carry the whole vision, only to move when called. That's the paradox. The more you force it, the further you drift from it. The tighter you grip, the more peace escapes your hands. True power, quiet, rooted, undeniable, doesn't come from domination. It comes from surrender. Not giving up, but letting go. Letting go of your idea of how it should look, when it should arrive, who should walk beside you. This doesn't mean you sit idle. Discipline still matters. Stillness is not passivity, it's preparation. When you let go of your agenda, you become available. You begin to hear the subtle instructions. You start to see the signs you once missed in your hurry. The divine plan doesn't operate on demand. It waits for alignment. It waits for you to stop playing God and start serving the silence. You move not because you must, but because something deeper moves through you. That's when life begins to respond, not to your pressure, but to your presence. When you stop forcing, you become fluid. And when you become fluid, you become unstoppable. Every moment you pick up the device, something picks you up too. The scroll isn't innocent. The feed isn't neutral. They were built to pull, to prod, to scatter your attention in 1,000 directions. Not because you're weak, but because your focus is powerful. And power, if it's not controlled, becomes currency for someone else. Shaolin discipline begins with subtraction, not because silence is pretty, but because it's necessary. Remove what's unnecessary. Cut the noise. Empty the space. This is the first step, not to meditate better or feel calm, but to protect your inner world from being colonized. Because when your awareness is fractured, you forget what matters. You chase shadows. You react instead of respond. You scroll through hours of someone else's noise and call it rest. But it's not rest. It's erosion. In the temple, the monks train their senses to be sharp, not just physically but mentally. Eyes clear, ears disciplined, mind alert. But still, they don't let the outside world dictate the rhythm of their breath. Because once you let external chaos set your pace, you're no longer walking your path, you're running someone else's race. Modern distractions are not mistakes in design, they are weapons. And for the chosen, distraction is more dangerous than direct attack. It makes you slow, soft, forgetful, numb to the core. This is not about digital fasting, it's about spiritual survival. When your attention is scattered, your energy follows, and where your energy goes, your life follows. So take it back, turn it inward, guard it like fire in a storm. Because what you feed your mind becomes your fate, and the mind left unguarded is the first to fall. Not all protection is visible. There's armor that doesn't shine, doesn't make noise, doesn't look like defense at all. But it's there, quiet, steady, forged in moments of discipline no one else sees. Every time you choose to stay focused when your mind wants to drift, every fast you keep when your body begs for comfort, every prayer spoken in silence, every breath taken with presence instead of panic, you're layering something around your spirit that cannot be touched. The world praises loud strength, physical force, outward success, but the deeper part knows. Real power is restraint, real strength is in consistency, and the divine responds not to grand gestures, but to quiet loyalty. The lazy aren't cursed, they're left exposed. Because protection doesn't come free, it comes through alignment. The one who walks in discipline walks in armor, not because nothing can touch them, but because what does touch them cannot break them. In the old teachings, the warrior's shield wasn't just metal, it was his code, his rhythm, his way of living. That shield is still available, but it's built through repetition, rising early, staying aware, moving with intention, even when the world says you can relax. And it's not about being perfect, it's about being faithful. The divine doesn't ask you to never fall, it asks you to rise with purpose, to return to the breath, to walk the path even when it's dark. Each time you do, you become harder to reach, quieter in the storm, sharper in the chaos. And that is the kind of armor no enemy sees coming. Because while others are defending their image, you are protecting your essence. Not everything that glows is light. Some of the greatest dangers on the path don't arrive as threats, they arrive as invitations. Smooth voices, gentle offers, doors that open too easily. To the untrained eye, they seem like blessings, answers, signs, but beneath the surface, something is off, just enough to turn your path sideways without you realizing you've stepped off it. The chosen are especially vulnerable here, because once you start walking in clarity, the enemy shifts strategy. It stops trying to frighten you. It starts trying to blend in. It wears robes. It speaks your language. It quotes truth, but without the spirit behind it. Shortcuts appear. People promise healing without discipline. Teachers appear who offer enlightenment without struggle. Movements that ask for your loyalty but not your self-mastery, and if you're not mindful, if you haven't sharpened your inner vision, you'll take the bait, not because you're blind, but because you're tired, hungry for answers, ready for rest. That's when discernment becomes more important than desire. In the Shaolin tradition, students weren't just taught how to fight, they were taught how to see, to feel what isn't being said, to read the energy behind the gesture. Because not all poison comes in a bitter cup. Some arrive sweet, beautiful, exactly what you think you need. Mindfulness is what keeps your heart clean in a world full of actors. It doesn't judge, it watches. It doesn't assume, it listens. And it allows you to feel when something is dressed in light, but rooted in control. So walk slow. Trust what rises in stillness, and remember, The ones who seek to mislead you won't always knock down your door. Some will kneel at it, smiling. There is a silence that speaks louder than any voice. But you won't find it in the noise, not in the crowd, not in the constant hum of opinions, timelines, or expectations. The divine plan doesn't shout, it waits, and only those who step away can hear it clearly. That's why the old masters walked alone, not because they hated people, but because they needed space to see again, to feel again, to listen without interference. Solitude wasn't their escape, it was their return. In the Shaolin tradition, isolation is part of training. A monk might spend days in stillness, not to withdraw from life, but to remember how to live it with precision. Because when the world is always in your ears, your inner compass starts spinning. You begin to absorb other people's fears, their urgency, their distraction, and eventually you forget what your own voice sounds like. That's the danger. Modern life confuses connection with closeness. Surrounded by messages, yet starving for meaning, the divine doesn't compete with chaos. It waits for you to leave the crowd, sit with the silence, and ask nothing but truth. And it's not always comfortable. Solitude strips the distractions, but it also confronts you with everything you've been avoiding, the parts of you that need healing, the decisions you've postponed, the quiet instructions you ignored. But once you pass through that discomfort, something pure returns, a knowing, a stillness that doesn't need to explain itself. The path of the chosen requires time away, not forever, but enough to see clearly again, enough to hear what the crowd kept drowning out. Step back, get quiet, and watch what rises when the world no longer has your attention. Thought without movement is a trap. It feels like progress. You make lists, you map out perfect timing, you wait for the right sign, the perfect mood, the complete clarity. But clarity often doesn't come until you move, and waiting too long becomes a weight on the body, on the spirit, on the path itself. In the ancient traditions, movement was prayer. A step taken with full awareness was worth more than 1,000 thoughts. Shaolin monks didn't sit and overanalyze their path. They trained, they acted, they trusted that spirit speaks through disciplined movement, not endless inner debate. Overplanning is a form of fear. It hides behind logic, but underneath is a hesitation to surrender, a reluctance to risk, a craving for control. But sacred action, the kind that flows from stillness, not ego, isn't reckless. It's clear, it's clean, and it carries a different kind of power. A power that opens things no plan could ever force, especially now, especially around August 7th. There are windows in time that require your feet to move before your mind feels ready. Energetically, this moment is one of them. It asks not for perfection, but for obedience to the inner knowing that keeps nudging you. That gentle pull, that quiet whisper, it's not just thought, it's instruction. If you wait too long, the door closes. Not in punishment, but because timing is part of the plan. And some thresholds only open once. So don't get stuck in your own mind. Don't pray for change while sitting in the same place. Stand, move, begin. Even one humble action taken in truth carries more power than 1,000 intentions kept in silence. The path is not asking you to be fearless. It's asking you to be awake. August 7th is more than a day on the calendar. It's a moment of alignment or misalignment. A chance to either drift into comfort or step deeper into purpose. And for the chosen, every small decision matters. Not because the world is watching, but because your spirit is. This journey isn't about being perfect. It's about being present. Every time you choose awareness over distraction, discipline over delay, stillness over noise, you're remembering who you are. You're honoring the divine plan that's already unfolding beneath the surface of your life. So as you move through this day and the ones that follow, walk with intention. Guard your focus. Listen closely. The call doesn't always come in thunder. Sometimes it arrives in a whisper. Stay loyal to the path, even when it's quiet. Thank you for walking with us today. If this message spoke to your spirit, like the video and subscribe to our channel, Shaolin Soulfire. We're here to walk this road with you, one breath, one step, one awakening at a time. Peace be with you.